Development Code. And there are 3 cases to be heard today. And I would just ask if there are any additions or deletions to the agenda.
Hearing Officer Aber, there are no amendments.
Okay, thank you very much. In that case, the first case that we will hear is the variance request, case number 235250. And Mr. Quintana?
Good afternoon, Hearing Officer Eber. Today before you have Jose Alfredo Juarez, Alma Rosa Juarez applicants request a variance of Chapter 8, Table 8-19, Dimensional Standards of the Planned Development District to create a 4-lot residential subdivision from a 2.16 acre parcel of land. The proposed lots would be 1.19 acres, 0.562 acres, 0.416 acres, and 0.334 acres, and would contain 1 residential unit on each lot. The subject property lies within the existing Neighborhood Plan Development District of the Community College District, which allows for 1 single-family residence per 2.5 acres. The property is located at 19 Rancho de Siesta in SDA 1. The applicants are the owners of the property as identified by warranty deed recorded in the records of the Santa Fe County Clerk on January 31st, 2023. Recorded as instrument number 2005779. The property is accessed off of Rancho de Siesta, a privately maintained road. The applicants seek to divide the property into a 4-lot residential condominium consisting of Unit 1, 688 square feet with 0.562 acres of limited common element, Unit 2, 960 square feet with a 1.19 acre limited common element, Unit 3, 1,847 square feet with 0.416 acres of limited common element, and Unit 4, 1,613 square feet with 0.33 acres of limited common element. The applicants are also requesting a variance of density to allow 1 dwelling unit per proposed lot to be created. Currently on site, there are 4 existing residences, garages, and carports. There is a single well that is shared amongst the residences and all on their own septic system. 3 homes were present prior to 1981 by way of aerial imagery. A permit was granted in 2007 for a mobile home placement. The property is within the Community College Plan Development District within the existing neighborhood subdistrict. Chapter 8, Section 8.10.3.18, Table 843, existing neighborhood of the SLDC requires a minimum lot size of 2.5 acres per dwelling unit. Santa Fe County staff has conducted a site inspection on the property. The applicants have provided evidence as to how this many dwelling units were constructed by way of pre-code aerial imagery. The pre-code aerial imagery illustrates 3 homes on site. There's no proposal to remove any units on site. County staff is able to recognize 3 units through aerial imagery dating to 1978. County staff issued a permit in 2007 for a mobile home placement, bringing the total to 4 homes on the site. The applicants are requesting to divide the parcel of land into 4 individual tracts. The proposed division does not meet the minimum requirements of the SLDC code, Chapter 8, Section 810.3.18, which requires a minimum of 2.5 acres per dwelling unit. The applicant has addressed the variance criteria as addressed in the memo. Santa Fe County Fire Prevention has reviewed and approved the access subject to conditions identified in the conditions of approval dated February 28, 2024. The Santa Fe County Public Works Division has reviewed the proposal and can support the development as far as access is concerned and has no further comments. The applicant is proposing to access 11, 13, 19, and 21 via Rancho de Siesta, not a county-maintained road, and is a private road. Staff's recommendation. The property is within the Community College Plan Development District within the existing neighborhood subdistrict. Chapter 8, Section 810.3.18, existing neighborhood of the SLDC requires a minimum lot size of 2.5 acres per dwelling unit. Grandfather status can be made for the 3 single-family dwelling units via aerial image photography from 1978, and a permit was issued in 2007 for a mobile home placement. Therefore, staff only recognizes 4 legal dwellings on the property. Staff does not believe the applicants have satisfied the criteria for granting of the variance and recommends denial of the variance request. If the hearing officer recommends approval of these variances, staff recommends the following conditions. Hearing officer Yubert, may I enter these conditions into the record?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I stand for any questions.
Mr. Quintana, this has me stumped. I don't understand why section 1.11.7, the previously approved subdivisions and land divisions, previously approved and platted land divisions and subdivisions and lots created thereby shall be recognized as legally existing lots under the code that was adopted in 2016. And then that leads, of course, directly to what was labeled as proposed plat that was part of the exhibits. And is that proposal the staff's proposed plat? I don't understand that either.
Hearing officer Eber, Exhibit 3, the proposed plan, was initially what the applicants believed they purchased back in the proposed plan that is as Exhibit 3 was not approved by the Land Use Department, therefore that is why it is not recognized. 2002, this did not go through the Growth Management Department for review or approval, so it is not pre-code or grandfathered status.
Mr. Quintana, in looking at the proposed plan, it apparently was recorded as a plat in 2002, and it references an earlier recorded plat back to 1980 and 1982. And these were recorded as a condominium where each individual lot is separately deeded and separately owned. Isn't that your understanding?
Hearing officer Eber, that's correct. The plat that was filed in 1982 was also not reviewed by county staff. The mention of the 1980 plat was not filed, and we have no record of.
So the only plat you could find was what was called the replat in 2002?
The original plat from 1982, we do have, that was also not approved by county staff, and that was a creation of only 3 units, not the 4.
So in staff's view, the section that regarding the previously approved subdivisions would not cover these 4 lots, is that correct?
Hearing officer Eber, that is correct.
Even though they've been occupied now for 40 years, more or less?
Hearing officer Eber, unfortunately, due to the fact that it did not get reviewed by the Growth Management Department, Land Use Administrator, or go through the proper approval process, it is therefore not recognized.
Okay. So that leads me to the next problem I have with this, and that is the applicants only own 1.16 of this 2.16, the figures aren't exactly right, but the applicants do not own the entire property, and I don't understand how, we're not subdividing the applicant's property in any way. I mean, the variance that's requested is not asking for that. Is that correct?
Hearing officer, correct. It is to divide the total 2.6 in joint tenancy with the additional owners that are present today.
So all owners of the 4 properties are here today. Is that correct?
2 of the 3, I apologize, Hearing officer Eber.
I think my problem, Mr. McIntyre, is that if this is the route, the only route that seems available to go through and get these to be legal lots, even though they've existed for quite some time and people have paid their taxes on them and paid for title insurance, et cetera, would have to be that all 4 property owners are going to have to make a statement under oath that they agree to the subdivision of the 2.16. And even with that, I think that leaves us in a little strange situation. But do you believe that we could have each of the three property owners come forward, be sworn in, and testify, and then you could get the fourth property owner to submit an affidavit that's notarized that essentially states the same, that they agree to have this condominium property essentially divided, even though it's been that way for 4 decades?
Hearing Officer Eber, that has been taken into conclusion, and there is also letters within the exhibits that identify that they are on board to do as such. In the event that you do wish that they do still speak for the record, I believe we can make that happen.
I think that would have to be the case. I think it would have to be affidavits. I believe the testimony that the three owners that are here today can come forward and give their testimony under oath. But if this is the way we're going to approach this, I think it's going to have to be all the owners of that 2-point acreage.
Hearing Officer, thank you.
Well, thank you. In light of this, I don't really feel like I need to, other than for the statements made by each one of the property owners that's present today, I don't believe the applicants themselves need to address this, because this is a very confusing situation, and I think the Condominium Act in itself, yeah, I did go back and I looked at the Condominium Act, and it in itself is very confusing, and particularly when it's used for purposes like this, where we're just talking about land division and not a commonly owned building. Okay, thank you, Mr. Quintana. So at this time,
Thank you.
if, I guess, if the Warras would come forward, and also is it the Padillas, are they present? And all the other owners of this property, if they would just come forward and state that they desire to have this property divided into the lots as indicated on Exhibit 3, which is the proposed plat.
I'm sorry. I do. Okay, Mark Padilla.
And Alma Juarez.
Thank you. Mr. Padilla, do you own this property separately as your own property? Are you married? Are you going to be able to speak for this property, is what I'm asking?
Yes, I am married. Yes, I can speak for 11 Rancho de Siesta and 13 Rancho de Siesta. Both of those properties belong to us.
And
They
is your wife here today?
She is.
All right, because I would like her to come as forward, as she's also an owner of this property, just to be sworn in and say she agrees.
Yes.
Yes. Zelma Padilla.
Thank you. And both of, Mr. and Mrs. Padilla, both of you agree that you want the county to proceed in this fashion?
Yes.
I'm curious, have you ever seen this declaration of condominium itself? There should be a separate document that goes back to the 80s. Was that provided to you?
Yes, it was. We, back in 1980, between 80 and 82, we purchased 13 Rancho de Siesta from my parents. They owned that at the time.
Oh.
And then they were permitted to build their home, which is 11 Rancho de Siesta. Since
see.
then, they both passed away. My father passed away a year ago, April. So my sister and I inherited the property, and we let me take you back to 1982, and between 82 and 86, we hired an attorney to create bylaws for us so we could each individually have our property plus our homes on our title deeds. According to Glenn Derrick, who is one of the original owners, I believe he's at 21 Rancho de Siesta. He was unable to come today due to health reasons. He's on oxygen and not doing well. But he is in agreement and of doing this. So the problem is that this condominium act, it prevents us from doing anything with our property. We're not permitted to do any type of improvements, even though we've been there since 1982. So that's what we're requesting. We're requesting each individual lot be recognized as a family residence. So,
I understand. It's going to be necessary for Mr. Derricks to provide an affidavit so that all of the owners, because with the Juarez's and both of you, that would be the entirety of the owners, is that correct?
that's correct.
There is, in the Condominium Act, there is a provision that you can, with an agreement of 80%, terminate the condominium itself. You can terminate all of that. But that, of course, still leaves you with the issue of the county recognizing it as legal lots. But I'm
Yes.
just saying that you could just extinguish that by a statement that you also would file with the county clerk stating that it's being terminated by the condominium owners.
Okay.
Okay. So that leaves Ms. Juarez. Is your husband here as well?
Yes.
And could he come forward and be sworn so that we'd have all the owners except Mr. Dirks?
I'm sorry. It's Jose Alfredo Juarez.
Mr. Juarez. And Mr. Juarez, you and your wife, you both agree that this property should be divided into the 4 lots as proposed on the plat. Is that correct?
Yes.
And for both of you, thank you. And this all started when you went in to go get a permit to do some grading on your property?
Yes, when we bought the property, we didn't know anything about it till we stopped by the office and requested a permit. That's when we knew everything about it.
Yes,
We have
it's
been
quite
struggling with
complicated.
everything.
All right. Well, with that and the fact that the record is going to be supplemented, I think Mr. Quintana will help facilitate that to get Mr. Dirk's statement as part of this record. I will make a recommendation that the county go forward and divide these into 4 legal lots as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Does staff have any other questions here, or would they like to make any comments on how we go forward with this?
Hearing officer, no comments from staff. The decision will be at your discretion.
All right, in that case, then, again, I'll get a recommended decision on this matter, and the record definitely needs to be supplemented before that time period runs.
Thank you, hearing officer.
Thank you. The next case that's on the agenda is case 235360.
Hearing officer, if I may intervene, did you open up for public comment?
Oh, I am so sorry. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. Did anyone else in this room have a comment on the preceding case? And I don't know, my screen is blank, so is there anyone online that has any comments?
Hearing officer, we have nobody online wishing to speak on this matter.
All right, thank you for reminding me. Now we'll go forward with the case 235360, Irene Hoffman and Max Protect conditional use permit.
Hearing Officer Aber, if I may make a correction to the case number, it should read as 235270.
I was going to ask you about that. So it should be 23
5270,
5270. Thank you.
of course. Irene Hoffman and Max Protech applicants, New Mexico Land Solutions agent, are requesting approval of a conditional use permit to utilize an existing 7,000 square foot, 4-bedroom residence as a bed and breakfast and retreat. The site is zoned residential fringe. Appendix B, use matrix, illustrates that a bed and breakfast and a retreat are a conditional use permit within the rural residential fringe zoning district. The 5-acre parcel is located at 40 Apache Ridge Road, Section 3, Township 15 North, Range 10 East, Commission District 4, SDA 2. The 5-acre parcel contains a 7,000 square foot primary residence and a 1,140 square foot accessory dwelling unit. The applicants intend to utilize the structures for the proposed bed and breakfast and retreat. There is an existing pool located on site that will be reduced in size with the proposed bed and breakfast and retreat. The retreat program they are developing will operate like a nonprofit, offering intimate retreats for small cohorts and museum leaders, curators, and artists at times of challenge and change. Retreat programs will take place largely on-site and have programs that last 3 to 5 days. Retreats will be scheduled throughout the year and take place in between bookings by overnight guests. The maximum occupancy for the bed and breakfast and for also the retreat is a maximum of 8 individuals. The intended use for the bed and breakfast and retreat is intended for art-type programs. County Building and Development Services has reviewed the application for compliance with the following SLDC requirements: fire protection, landscape and buffering, setbacks, fences and walls, lighting, signage, parking and loading, traffic access road design standards, utilities, water, wastewater, and water conservation, terrain management, flood prevention and flood control, and solid waste. The SLDC section 4.9.6, the approval criteria, establishes the approval criteria for a conditional use permit. Staff has determined that the applicant's proposal use satisfies this criteria in the memo as detailed in the memo. Staff's recommendation. Staff has determined that the proposed bed and breakfast and retreat complies with the SLDC and recommends that the conditional use permit of Appendix B, the use matrix table, which establishes the criteria displayed as a conditional use permit and allows these uses subject to the following conditions. Hearing Officer Aber, may I enter these conditions in for the record?
Yes, please.
Staff requests that the hearing officer memorialize the findings of fact and conclusions of law in a written recommendation. The Santa Fe Planning Commission will be holding a public hearing on this matter on May 18th, 2024. I stand for any questions.
I just have a couple, Mr. Quintana. On page 5 of your report, there's a reference in the third full paragraph to both of their lots. And when I look at the description of the property, I can only see that there's one lot. Is there another lot?
That was paragraph.
Sorry, it's number 2, the first paragraph of number 2 on page 5.
Hearing Officer Aber, the owners also own the adjacent lot. And that is directly from the applicant's statements, which I believe they can expand further on your question for you.
Okay. And then going to the conditions, I did not see as part of the condition the water metering that was referenced in the neighborhood meeting. And the same comment applies to the knock lock, whether it should be in the conditions. It was referenced in the Public Works report.
Hearing Officer Aber, on the water, it was referenced in condition 7. And for the knock locks, could be condition number 4.
So the fire department report had the condition of the knock locks.
Yes, ma'am.
But I'm sorry, I have to go to 7, and the water restriction covenants on the conditional use permit site development plan. Could you direct me to that site development plan? Is that the first?
It would be Exhibit 2. Currently, as the proposed exhibit, that would be a condition of a red line, which would be addressed prior to the recording.
So there will be a water metering requirement, and is that also a monthly report to the administrator? Is that how that works?
Your Honor, that is correct.
Thank you very much. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you.
At this time, if the applicant would come forward. Thank you.
My name is Wayne Dalton with New Mexico Land Solutions, 915 Mercer Street, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87505. Hearing Officer Aber, I'd like to start off first to thank staff for all the work they've done on this application, and also thank members of the community for their comments and concerns for this application. As staff stated, we are requesting a conditional use permit to utilize an existing 7,000 square foot residence as a 4-bedroom bed and breakfast / retreat establishment. The residence, like I said, is 7,000 square feet and is occupied on a part-time basis by the applicants. Both the main residence and ADU will be utilized for the proposed bed and breakfast and retreat establishment. Meals will be prepared by the guests of the establishment, and no commercial kitchen will be proposed. Bed and breakfast. One of the 2 intended uses for the property is to offer luxury lodging for visitors to Santa Fe. With 3 bedrooms in the main residence and 1 bedroom in the accessory dwelling, the property is ideally suited to host 2 small groups or 1 larger extended family with room for 8 adults. Guests visiting the bed and breakfast and retreat will be on a reservation basis and will be accepted throughout the year. The anticipated occupancy rate throughout the year will be between 65% and 75%. Income from the overnight guests will support the maintenance, overhead, and staff for the property, and will support the larger mission of the property, which is to invite curators, artists, writers, and museum leaders to attend intimate retreat evenings to support and inspire their work. Hearing Officer Aber, I want to read a definition out of the Sustainable Land Development Code. There's been some letters submitted to staff with different definitions of what a conditional use is. So I want to read that into the record. This definition comes straight out of the Sustainable Land Development Code. The definition of a CUP is a quasi-judicial discretionary approval of a conditional use that meets all conditions of the SLDC. I just wanted to state that for the record. The retreat aspect of the application is as follows. The applicants of the proposed use each come from the art world. Mr. Protect was a contemporary art dealer for 40 years, and Ms. Hoffman was a curator and museum director, most recently serving as the director of Site Santa Fe for over a decade. The retreat program they are developing will operate like a nonprofit, offering intimate retreats for small cohorts of museum leaders, curators, and artists at times of challenge and change. Retreat programs will take place largely on site and have programs that last 3 to 5 days. Retreats will be scheduled throughout the year and take place in between bookings by overnight guests and will not exceed 10 retreats per year. Hearing Officer Aber, I want to go over some issues or some concerns from the community. We've gotten a lot of letters in regards to this application, and I just want to go over what their concerns are and how we're addressing those concerns. So the first big concern is water use. Hearing Officer Aber, when this property was first subdivided back in 1993, it was located in what was called the Mountain Hydrologic Zone. And the minimum lot size in that area at that time was 40 acres per dwelling unit. With signed and recorded water restrictions, you could go down to a 20-acre minimum per dwelling unit. In order to get down to the 5-acre lot size, you would need to prove sufficient water through a geohydraulic report. That was done at the time, proved a 100-year water supply, and that is why the lots are at 5 acres. Our water budget. As per the state engineer, the water budget is in accordance with the OSC's water conservation and qualification of water demands, utilizing 75 gallons per capita per day. The water budget's calculation, which results in 0.61. Hearing Officer Aber, at the time, the original owners of the property conducted the hydro report. Sufficient water was proven, and a water restriction of 0.75 was allocated to these properties. So we are well under the 0.75 acre-foot water restriction for the property. I want to discuss a little bit about the swimming pool. That's been brought up as well. There is an existing swimming pool on the property, which is 45 by 21 and 9 feet deep. And it has a total volume of 46,000 gallons. That existing pool will be renovated for a total volume of 6,000 gallons. That is a reduction of 87%, or 40,000 gallons of reduction of the pool size, which will decrease water use on the property. The pool will be also equipped with an automatic pool cover, which will reduce evaporation. The initial fill and any refilling of the pool will be provided with trucked-in water. So no water from the well will be utilized for the initial filling of the pool or refilling of the pool. So the only water that will be utilized is maintenance of the pool, splash out, stuff like that. There's been a lot of talk about traffic on Apache Ridge Road. The property is accessed off Old Las Vegas Highway via Apache Ridge Road. Apache Ridge Road consists of 20 to 24 foot base course and hard compact dirt and rock driving surface. It is privately owned and maintained by the homeowners of Apache Ridge Road. Traffic generated by this establishment will be far less than 25 trips per day. As per the New Mexico State Access Management Manual, 25 trips entering and exiting the property triggers a TIA. The estimated peak hour trips are between 8 and 10, so a TIA is not required, nor was it required by staff. This average daily traffic is based on 8 guests per day, 1 employee, and 1 delivery pickup a day. Guests visit the property by reservation only and average 274 days per year. The traffic generated by this establishment will have little adverse impact upon the existing roads in the immediate area. And I also want to say the applicants contribute to the maintenance of Apache Ridge Road for both their lots, the one in question and the adjacent vacant lot. So they contribute to the road maintenance of Apache Ridge Road. Another concern that was brought up by the community was fire hazards. So an emergency access which we just talked about, equipped with a Knox lock system, and fire turnaround will be constructed, meeting fire division requirements. An automatic fire suppression system will also be installed in this residence. No new landscaping is proposed with this application. There is existing landscaping consisting of native trees, which include pinon, juniper, and cedar, along with shrubs and native grasses. The client has also completed a tree and forest management plan to rid the property of any unhealthy or dying trees and vegetation, which will create a defensible space for potential fire hazards. Hearing Officer Hebert, there's also been some letters stating that this is a short-term rental. This is not a short-term rental. If this was a short-term rental, we would not be here tonight. That process would be done administratively, and the community would have no opportunity to voice their concerns. That's an administrative process. The applicants chose a conditional use to be a good neighbor, to get input from the community, and work with the community on their concerns. We feel we've done that. We feel this application is in compliance with the SLDC, and so does staff. Staff recommending approval as well. Hearing Officer Hebert, that concludes my presentation. I stand for any questions. But first, the applicants, Irene Hoffman, would like to speak and introduce herself.
That
If that would
I'd
be
like to do.
okay.
I would like to ask you a couple of questions before
Okay.
you leave. They're very short. There was a reference to a house manager. Is the house manager living on the property?
Hearing Officer Hebert, the house manager will not be living on the property.
And you referred to that second lot. How large a lot is that second adjacent lot that's empty?
Hearing Officer Hebert, that adjacent lot is also 5 acres.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Do. Irene Hoffman. Hello, Hearing Officer Hebert. I want to thank our friends and supporters here in the room online and those who have sent in letters of support for our project. I also want to thank the county staff for working with us over the last several months and for their recommendation for approval of our permit with a number of conditions and criteria that we are committed to implementing. I also want to thank the Apache Ridge neighbors who wrote letters of support, and those who are here to learn more, and those who are here to oppose our application and register their concerns. I'm grateful that you all are here. My hope is that we are able to answer some questions that you might have and alleviate some of your concerns. My name is Irene Hoffman. This is my husband, Max Protech. We live in Santa Fe nearly 15 years now and live in the foothills off of Old Santa Fe Trail, just a few minutes away from the property at Apache Ridge. Last summer, we bought a property on Apache Ridge with a vision to create a retreat for the art world and a guest house for those who love contemporary art. I was the director of Site Santa Fe for over a decade and Max an art dealer for 40 years. And we found ourselves at a moment when we want to do something meaningful and inspiring for the field we love. Our retreat operation is called Desert Sabbatical. It will be by invitation only, and our bed and breakfast operation will be by reservation only. We will not be open to the public. We chose the property on Apache Ridge partly because it was a large lot and was zoned such that our intended uses are allowed with a conditional use permit. Zoned residential fringe, the Santa Fe County Sustainable Land Development Code allows, with a conditional use permit, such uses as tasting rooms, fitness centers, camping establishments, clubs and lodges, bed and breakfasts, and retreats, among others. This is what led us to make an offer on the property and go through the rigorous process and requirements of applying for a conditional use permit. Before we bought it, 40 Apache Ridge Road was vacant, by some accounts for 10 years. That's 10 years of minimal water or no water usage, 10 years of complete quiet on the property, 10 years of no cars driving on the road to the property. I get it, as neighbors, that was probably really nice. But you also had 10 years of a property increasingly a concern, a nuisance, and even a danger. When we bought the house had suffered vandalism. Appliances had been stolen out of the house, so we were told. There were many dead trees and dry brush. The house's infrastructure was in disrepair. It was a fire danger, a magnet for vandalism, and who knows what else. Today, the house is secure, and with one of the conditions of the conditional use permit, it will soon have a new sprinkler system, a fire suppression system throughout the house. I hope you will all agree that we are making the property safer for the neighborhood. Although a conditional use permit here in the county does not require the demonstration of benefit to the neighborhood, I hope this alone would be seen as a valued benefit nonetheless. Additionally, it's important to note that our bed and breakfast operation will be contributing to the Lodgers Tax Fund that supports arts organizations all over the region, as well as contributing to the tax base through gross receipts taxes. Someone was going to buy Apache Ridge Road, 40 Apache Ridge Road. After 10 years, all of our neighbors were going to get a new neighbor. If not us, it could have likely been a large family, maybe one with 2 generations, maybe a few teenagers. The family would likely have several cars driving down the road and back each day, and would likely hire a housekeeper, a landscaper, a pool maintenance service, have propane deliveries, and hire an occasional handyman. They would have just as much activity at the house as we plan to, if not more, but would not be subject to any of the conditions, scrutiny, and neighborhood objections that we willingly engage with here. The house we bought has 4 bedrooms. It had 4 bedrooms when we bought it, and it will have 4 bedrooms when we welcome guests. A 4-bedroom home is on the larger side, but there are many homes on Apache Ridge with 4 bedrooms. Maybe there are even some with more. We intend to use the house to host retreats for the art world at some times of the year and host paying overnight guests at other times of the year. These activities won't happen at the same time. Our maximum capacity, as Wayne said, for each function is 8 guests. Arguably not much more that might live in a 4-bedroom home full-time. And a final thought. Of all the concerns expressed by neighbors in opposition to our application, the most common and passionate concern is about the condition of the road and the impact of our activity on the road. I get it. The road is pretty rough most days. It was long before we ever had our first look at the property at 40 Apache Ridge. And yes, there will be more cars on the road because we will now occupy the house. But whoever bought the house would be adding to the traffic in a similar way. But I can assure you that we share this concern about the road, and we want to be part of the solution and not contribute to the problem. I know the maintenance fund is often underfunded, and it's a shame. By my estimate, there might be over 100 homes on Apache Ridge or on the smaller roads that are only accessible by traveling Apache Ridge. And I was told recently that maybe only half paid dues. We will not be one of the owners who don't. We will contribute annually to the fund, as we did last year when we closed at the end of the summer, and we'll do so every year. We will pay for 40 Apache Ridge and the vacant lot that we also own at 56 Apache Ridge. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hoffman.
You have any questions for me?
Would you, if there was a condition, an additional condition imposed regarding the pool, the swimming pool, as only being filled with trucked-in water, I think that would be a reasonable condition to put on that pool.
Absolutely. That was our plan.
Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you.
Does staff have any questions for the applicant before we hear from public comment?
Hearing officer, there are no questions from staff.
And would staff think that was a reasonable condition to put, add to the list of conditions that staff is imposing?
Hearing officer, yes, that's a reasonable condition.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask if there's anyone in this room that wants to make comment on this application. Is there anyone? Somebody? If you'd stand up and come forward, please.
Hi. Yes, I do. Jill Feinberg, 1019 Camino Redondo, Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm actually wanting to talk to the homeowners about Ms. Hoffman and Mr. Protech. As somebody that really adores them and knows what kind of people they are. No one wants to have problematic neighbors. Life is stressful enough without people challenging the safe place you call home base. I'm here to give you some insights into Irene as a person beyond ordinances and land use and regulations. Consider for a moment that Irene and Max might be your dream neighbors, not your nightmare neighbors. Have you ever had a friend in your life that you were proud to call a friend? It is that way for me with Irene. She is honest, supportive, smart, compassionate, and forthcoming. She is impeccable in her care, whether it be her home, her husband, her business, her friends, or her two precious four-leggeds. She is almost always upbeat, sometimes persistently so for a cynic like me. Irene is brilliant at noticing where help is needed and taking the time and focus to brainstorm possible new solutions to old issues that are causing distress, maybe like the maintenance of your road. She has already shared with me some great potential ideas for very real concerns. When Irene was the director and curator for Site Santa Fe, she decided to gift all of her employees to a bodywork session with me after they had worked so hard for the opening of the new site building. Every person I worked on, without prompting, offered a conversation about what an incredible leader and boss Irene was, and that working with her was the best job they'd ever had. They each stated a version of feeling seen and considered and listened to by Irene, with no politics or hidden agendas. Irene's inclusiveness and accountability, which all of you can count on, extended into the changes she created at Site Santa Fe. Before she was the director, I personally had no interest in what the museum offered. It all seemed about reaching a wealthier, more entitled sector of people. But Irene is a visionary. She was determined to bring art to those in the community that would otherwise not be exposed to it. She engaged educational facilities and schools, bringing in kids excited to learn about new things. It was Irene's sense of community inclusion and was a great success. It certainly got my attention, and I began to engage more. I was exposed to ideas and opportunities I could never have expected. And it is this community inclusion she is hoping for at her Apache Ridge property, small numbers of people at a time. We are all aware how art and music and creativity, so beneficial to the inner life of kids, have become underfunded or removed from most school curriculums. The change is concerning. Similarly, many broad changes are also taking place in the larger art and creative world. Those immersed in museums and galleries, as well as the creative expression of individual artists, have been majorly challenged in these times. It is important still that their work has impact because they bring a poetic balance to a world presently filled with quite a bit of confusion and fear. The arts bring a balance to our humanity and to our souls. Irene understands this, and it is what Irene's vision for her property is about. She is brilliant at intimate social and professional exchanges for people in the art world that need support and sustenance during these times of cultural reframing. She wants curators and directors and artists and writers to come to Santa Fe to discover a safety net and find personal replenishment they can take back to their art communities. From her career work before and during her time at SITE, Irene developed deep professional relationships all over the country, and many are expressing this need for respite and rejuvenation with like-minded professionals. You can be assured her guests won't be dancing and whooping around bonfires. They will be exhaling into the sustenance her land will bring them, something every one of Apache Ridge's residents can relate to. Irene and Max will absolutely be the best kind of neighbors. I envy you all because I am bummed they are not mine.
Thank you, Ms. Feinberg. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on this application?
My name is Gustav. I was the 20th settler 40 plus years ago on the property. And it was residential. There is all the wildlife, deer, the coyotes, turkeys, any kind of large business will be detrimental, and more trees will have to be cut down. As more trees are cut down, they contribute toward global warming. Also, they want to have events. The space, they might build other buildings. It is residential. The road is hard. I contribute $300 every year to the road maintenance. And one of our neighbors who has a grading company does the grading. And it's very hard to maintain that road. It is a residential area, and it must be maintained as a residential area.
Mr. Gustav, is that your last name or your first name?
My last name is Kocsis, K-O-C-S-I-S. It's a Hungarian name, Kocsis.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr.
And I moved there with an Airstream, and I had to use a generator, and we convinced P&M to put the power in, and eventually have the post office put those metal boxes, okay? All of us who were the early settlers.
How long, when did you move on to the Apache
Over
Ridge?
40 years.
40 years.
Yeah.
Are you aware of any covenants on the deeds of the
I'm
property?
sorry, I can't.
Are you aware of any covenants on the deeds of the properties that would restrict it to residential only?
I'm not aware. Is there? It's to me, it's all residential and should be maintained residential. Okay, and I know that there might be someone who snuck in a B&B. Okay, but they never came through here to petition the change.
Mr. Gustav, when the code was adopted in 2016, apparently this area, its zoning being rural.
I'm sorry, the echo makes it so difficult for
It
me.
is difficult.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
But under the code that was adopted, this is a permitted use so long as all the conditions are met.
Yes. And I want to maintain it. I want to see it maintained. And with more traffic, the road will degrade. This past winter, the road was all potholed because of ice melting, and it was quite dangerous driving.
I understand. I live on a dirt road. I understand.
It's a dirt road.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do. Woody Schisler. I have to follow up. I'm the neighbor where this project is being considered. I've been here for a little over 30 years, and when I first came out here, I was renting from the Lacey family. You mentioned covenants. Covenant number 2, the use of the property shall be single-family residential and no commercial use, whatever, shall be made of the property. No signs of a commercial nature except 2, for rent or for sale, shall be allowed. The use of water is a concern regarding outsiders not having the respect that we have for our water supply. This plan generates extra traffic, extra trash, more noise, more light, not to mention keeping the pool filled. The road is in despicable condition, but it is our road. We do not need any more inordinate use of our neighborhood throughway. If you want to complete this unwanted, unnecessary, invasive project, please go elsewhere. E.W. Schisler. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schisler, for your comments.
Yes, I do. My name is Willie Richardson, 1227 Vitalia Street, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87505. I was born in Santa Fe 50 years ago. I grew up in Seton Village. I'm still invited to the pie baking contests every year, and I'm more here to speak to you guys that Max and Irene are dear friends. I met them about 12 years ago when I started working for Max, and we became very good friends. But these are people that you can approach with your issues individually. You can go up to them, bring them a pie, and tell them what you're concerned about. These are real people who are going to respect the land. And Gustav, I appreciate your concerns and what you're saying. I mean, those of us who have been here for a while need to take care of where we live, right? But just here to reassure you, try reaching out to them individually. The CUP seems pretty standard procedure to me, and so I can't comment on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
I do. My name is Eraldino Roybal. I'm a 45-plus year resident of Apache Ridge. Apache Ridge Road is the only road association in that area. You have other roads that go into it and out of it. They still are part of Apache Ridge. Now, one of the things that I've noticed that the last R&B that the county approved, I think it was last month, right? The guy just lied. He says, we don't pay any dues to Apache Ridge. We pay them to Mescalero. Nobody checked the facts. They just approved it. Why is that happening when it's a non-commercial area? We've always known that it was a non-commercial area. Now we have, if you look on the internet, you have 4+, I don't know how many Airbnbs are going up there. This has to stop. We have deer continually crossing the road. Outsiders, New Mexico roads are extremely dangerous. And outsiders don't know this. They're extremely dangerous because they don't see anybody. You have blind curves, and they just go really fast on Apache Ridge, and especially outsiders. And we have constantly wildlife crossing, especially deer in that area. And we've also are losing a lot of trees because of the drought. We've been in a drought for over 30 years. It's continuing, and it's going to get worse. And we know the people that live in Apache Ridge, they know what wildfires are. We already lost a house in a barn one year. And the people that live there, they know what fire is. They're not throwing their cigarettes out the window. Now I walk on the road and I see cigarette butts. The locals don't do that. They know what, they fear fire. And you're adding more community going through that road, creating more, even a stationary car on the side of the road starts the car. There's a potential fire hazard there. We do have fire plants, and we work with the fire department we have meetings to try to figure out what we're going to do, but we're just adding more and more. And in a commercial area, I don't know how many Airbnbs out there. We need to find out of how many there are and why they keep on approving. I don't understand that.
Mr. Roybal, I
Do
understand your
county
concerns.
commissioners do they own Airbnbs? We'll find out either way.
Well, there was a
But
recently
we're
enacted
definitely
short-term
opposed
rental.
to this type of, and getting another one in there and how the other ones were approved is very suspicious from our point of view. And we don't need any character reference here. They're not applying for a job. This is people that live in the community that have lived there, built their houses there, like the natives do, and lived there for years.
I appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Do you have any
Roybal.
questions?
No, again, I
questions?
just would say if there are covenants that could be privately enforced, I'm not aware of that, but it's a different situation.
I do. Nora Dolan, 121B, Camino Acote, Santa Fe, 87508. I have known Irene Hoffman professionally for over 10 years, and I would like to say that she brings an attitude of community and neighborliness to whatever she does. While she was the director of Site Santa Fe, she worked with the rail yard and the open space behind Site Santa Fe to develop a really thoughtful plan with the neighbors on meeting everyone's concerns as she renovated Site Santa Fe. She's bringing that same attitude to her new endeavor at 40 Apache Ridge. The day that I visited, there was an arborist there, and Irene said that she wanted to really take care of the trees, and could they protect the trees from the bark beetle, and what needed to be cut down for fire safety. And that was just a small little sample of what she's thinking about. I know that she's already paid her road dues from last year for both lots. She thoughtfully, absolutely wants to continue with road improvement moving forward. And I can only think that Apache Ridge would be very, very lucky to have neighbors like Irene and Max. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Dolan. Thank you. Are there any other comments? Yes, okay, come forward.
Yes, I do. Kristen Ryan, 25 Lone Pine Ridge, which is off of Apache Ridge Road. I'm a 40-year resident of Apache Ridge neighborhood, and I am in opposition to this CUP request and to this project. My understanding that the definition of CUP is conditional use permit, which allows for a city or a county to consider special uses which may be essential or desirable to a particular community, but which are not allowed as a matter of right within a zoning district and only through a public hearing process. I do not see that the CUP request for 40 Apache Ridge Road is in any way essential or desirable to our neighborhood community. It does not benefit the overall neighborhood in any way. It does not benefit the current individual residents or our properties in any way. In my opinion, nothing about this proposed project is essential or desirable to the functioning of our neighborhood.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, come forward, please.
Yes. My name is Alonkin Roybal. Address is 15 Lone Pine Ridge, Santa Fe, New Mexico. I've lived on Apache Ridge my whole life and talked with several neighbors about this, and it's part of a bigger problem as well. It's not just this one instance. We have several Airbnbs that are bringing in a lot of traffic. We see a lot of out-of-state plates. And one of the presenters mentioned that this would not be a short-term rental. And I don't understand how that would be the case if, yes, they're doing the retreat, but then on the other hand, they're doing bed and breakfasts, throughout the interim. So I don't understand how that is not a short-term rental. And, we have these character references, but we don't know who's coming in to the retreat. We don't know who's coming in, more importantly, to these short-term rentals. Every day, each and every day we see a new car down the road. We don't know who it is. We don't know where they're from, and they might not be aware of, what the fire danger is out here. They could just throw a cigarette butt out the window, carelessly, without thinking anything of it, because they might be from, the East Coast where they get lots of rainfall. And furthermore, I think that we are really concerned about the precedents that this sort of situation presents, because if you start letting these conditional uses and variances, little by little, it does affect the ecology. And Canyon Road was not built in a day. That used to be a neighborhood where people lived, and now it's an art mecca, so that's good for the art dealers and things of that nature, but it's not good for the residents that used to live there. So we are concerned about the precedents that this sets, and so that's why we oppose it. And there are several other members of our community that they couldn't make it here today because they had surgery, a lot of different things, and it's, we're just opposed to it. And I don't know anybody from Apache Ridge that is saying, yeah, this is good for our neighborhood, this is what we want. So that's pretty much all I had to say, and the list goes on and on. We wrote it all in our letters, and we're just kind of tired of this sort of thing. And it's you let one go, and then they just keep coming, and then eventually we're concerned about the character and the rural nature of our neighborhood, let alone the ecology you know, and let alone, you know, what we're doing with our real estate in Santa Fe, just, you know, and I understand this might not be in an affordable housing situation, but if you rent out a property to short-term rentals, retreats, bed and breakfast, even if it is a high-end luxury home, that takes away from the local market, which affects everybody. It affects, you know, the overall price of housing. So if we're actually serious about nurses, firemen, teachers, having a community that could actually take care of itself, especially when we have an elderly population, you know, we're gonna have to do something about this and like be serious about it and not pretend it's not an issue. And so far what we've seen is it's just allowing more of it, and there's gonna be a point where we actually have to address this and get serious about it.
Appreciate your comments, Mr. Roybal. The commission has worked with the short-term rental, and I know it's been very controversial for all the reasons and more that you've stated. Thank you for your comments.
Yes, and I would just like to add, I know it's not cut and dry. I know that there is nuance to it, but, you know, at the same time, there is the other side of the coin, too.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the room? Yes, please.
My name is Steve Robinson. My address is 21 Tierra Verde, Santa Fe. I'd like to start for a moment introducing myself. I've been an architect here in Santa Fe for 35 years, and I've been the president of the nonprofit organization that, in cooperation with the city of Santa Fe, has developed the Santa Fe Rail Yard for the last 22 years. I do think that the issue of character description is important. And I'm proud to say that Irene and Max have been close friends of mine, and I have observed what Max did in New York when he had one of the most innovative and successful art galleries in the city. He took care of it. He made sure that everyone who engaged his gallery was treated respectfully and with integrity. And I know that Irene had a career before Site Santa Fe, which she treated with great integrity and innovation. And the point I want to make is that in terms of the conditions of this approval, there is no doubt that they will handle this property and the activities on the property with the same level of respect and integrity for their people who come and use it for the intended purposes, which are allowable in this district, and that they will be respectful for the landscape and for all of their neighbors. I'm eager, actually, to be able to go and visit the property when it's up and functioning the way they intend to make it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Are there any other comments within the room? Okay, please come forward. Oh.
Hearing Officer Hebert, if I can provide a concluding statement.
Well, I think there was one other
Was there
person
one
who
other?
wanted to make
Oh,
a
I'm sorry.
comment. Mhm.
I do. My name is Laura Carpenter, and my current residence is 200 East Berger Street, Santa Fe, New Mexico. I have had a residence in several residences in Galisteo and Santa Fe. I have had several residences in Galisteo, New Mexico, and Santa Fe, New Mexico for the last 47 years. I have known Max Protect about that long. These are fine people, and change is going to happen. You can't keep it from happening. What needs to happen is that change needs to be managed and done well. New people will come, and oftentimes new people coming to town will make a big difference in how the town develops. The kind of development, which is, I know that's a bad word, but the kind of change that Max and Irene, who is one of the most capable people I have ever known, bring is the kind of development and the kind of change that this area needs. It will not hurt in any way the residents that already exist. I can only say that they will improve the property in a way that makes it safer and brings the kind of people here to New Mexico that will take care of the land and the environment. So I just want to say good things about them, and I love this place, and I know that they will take care of it.
Thank you, Ms. Carpenter. Mr. Dalton, if you wanted to come up and add your comments.
Thank you, Hearing Officer Hebert. Yeah, I just want to provide a concluding statement to some of these issues that have been come up here. Somebody had brought up changes to the property. There is no changes to this property. The only changes that are going to be made to this property is adding an emergency access, which has already been approved by staff and the fire department, a fire turnaround, and the reduction of the swimming pool. Those are the only changes that are proposed with this application to the property. Any other changes, any other buildings that are associated with this establishment, any expansion of this establishment has to go through this same process, another conditional use permit process. So as of right now, there are no plans on expanding, no plans on adding any other structures to this property. As far as covenants go, this issue was brought up at the community meeting. After the community meeting, I've done hours of research. I've researched back to the original plats of this property. There are no covenants tied to this property. The only covenant I can find for these properties are for Lot 5 only, which I believe is owned by Mr. Woody. And I believe those covenants were tied to that property because the original owner lived next door to Woody. And I think she applied covenants to that property. The other 4 lots do not have covenants tied to their warranty deeds. As far as the maintenance goes, our client, the applicant, has spoken directly to the person who maintains this road. So her money's not going to any other subdivision, any other place but the Apache Ridge Road maintenance. And lastly, we feel this application is in compliance with the SLDC, and we are in agreement with all staff conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Is staff aware of anyone online that is wanting to make a comment on this case?
If there's anyone online, there is one person online. Her name's Ann W., who wishes to speak on this application.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. I just want,
swear you in.
my name is Ann Brinkle.
Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth?
Yes.
And please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Ann Wrinkle, 2310 Calle Calibri, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87505.
Yes, go ahead and
Oh.
make your statement, please.
I want to reiterate a number of the comments made by friends of Irene and Max. I'm a colleague, a professional colleague, a friend, and I cannot imagine better neighbors. All of the things that have gone on, been said before, fire is a concern. I think these people will be extremely concerned about the land, the caretaking of the land responsibility, and the essence of the experience of the place that they're creating will be about that very thing. This is to be an extraordinary opportunity for this neighborhood and for Santa Fe to bring a type of place that allows for this contemplation and learning and convening together. So I just wish the best for this project, and I concur with the people who've spoken in its favor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wrinkle.
Is there anyone online who wishes to speak further? Please unmute yourself. Hearing officer, I see no other.
Okay, thank you. Did staff have any other comments on this application?
Hearing officer, there is no further comments from staff.
With that understanding, I will prepare a recommended order on this matter within 15 business days, and I appreciate all of your attendance and your comments. Thank you. At this time, I'll call the last case, which is case 245010, Stone Grown Farms LLC, conditional use permit.
Good afternoon, Hearing Officer Abear. My name is Maggie Valdez. I'm a Development Review Specialist Senior. Today I come before you with case number 245010, Stone Grown Farms LLC, conditional use permit.
Yes, if you'll go ahead.
Stone Grown Farms LLC. Applicant Steve Valentine, agent, requests a conditional use permit to allow an existing 2,000 square foot structure, commercial greenhouse, to be utilized for the purpose of producing cannabis. The request is made with respect to a 10-acre property located at 277 Calle Victoriano near Stanley. The structure would house a 10-foot by 20-foot flower tent, a 10-foot by 10-foot cure tent, a 10-foot by 10 veg tent, and an area to be utilized for trimming, packaging, and shipping and receiving. Section 10.22.3.3 of the Sustainable Land Development Code, ordinance number 2016-9, hereafter SLDC, states that a cannabis producer or cannabis producer microbusiness that cultivates cannabis plants indoors shall be treated the same as the following use: commercial greenhouse. The property is within the Rural Residential Zoning District. Appendix B of the SLDC illustrates a commercial greenhouse as a conditional use permit within RUR-R zoning, within Section 15, Township 11, North, and Range 8 East, SDA 2, Commission District 3. Summary. The applicant requests approval of a CUP to allow a 2,000 square foot existing greenhouse to be used as a commercial greenhouse for the purpose of producing cannabis. The existing greenhouse and attached workshop were permitted for private use through permit 20-155. The facility will be located on a 10-acre parcel of land. The applicant is required to abide by New Mexico regulations and licensing department. Regulations pertaining to licensing and operating the facility. including issues such as access, security, and monitoring by RLD. The applicant has obtained a New Mexico cannabis producer microbusiness license, which allows a cannabis producer at a single licensed premises to process no more than 200 total mature cannabis plants at one time. The applicant states that it is requesting approval of conditional use permit to allow 2,000 square foot structure that would house 10-foot by 20 flower tent, a 10-foot by cure tent, a 10-foot veg tent, and an area to be utilized for trimming, packaging, shipping, receiving. The commercial greenhouse for the purpose of producing cannabis flowers, cannabis micro businesses. The 10-foot acre property is within the rural residential zoning district. The Cannabis Control Division is responsible for regulating the adult use marijuana program. Access to cannabis is through the state licensed cannabis business. In response to the CUP criteria, the applicant has addressed the CUP criteria and staff has responded to the applicant's comments. Access. The applicant has addressed the applicable design standards as required by the SLDC. Building and Development Services staff has reviewed the project for compliance with pertinent SLDC requirements and has found that the facts presented support the request for a conditional use permit to allow an existing 2,000 square foot structure to be used as a commercial greenhouse for the purpose of producing cannabis. The use is compatible with the current development within the affected zoning district. The use will not impact adjacent land use, and the applicant satisfies the submittal request set forth in the SLDC, inclusive of the conditional use criteria set forth in Chapter 4, Section 4.9.65. The review comments from the State Historic Preservation Office and county staff have established findings that the application to allow a 2,000 square foot commercial greenhouse to cultivate cannabis plants indoor is in compliance with the state requirements. Standards identified in SLDC Section 10.22, Ordinance 2021-03, and required design standards set forth in the SLDC. Hearing Officer Aber, may I enter the conditions into the record?
Yes, Ms. Valdez, please.
Staff recommends approval of a conditional use permit to allow an existing 2,000 square foot structure to be utilized as a commercial greenhouse for the purpose of producing cannabis indoors, subject to the following conditions. The CUP showing the site layout and any other conditions that may be imposed through the approval process shall be recorded at the expense of the applicant in the office of the county clerks in accordance with Chapter 4, Section 4.9.68. The approval of the CUP will allow for a 2,000 square foot area to be utilized to cultivate cannabis plants as illustrated on the drawing that was submitted to staff. The applicant shall obtain a Santa Fe County business license. The applicant shall provide a retention pond with a capacity of at least 600 cubic feet in location approved by staff or other. So on this one right here, I'm reading on the pond, they also need to provide showing that you do have, they will be having water that they'll be using. Right now, you guys are, they're using a well. They're on a well right now. The well is leased at this time. I will continue with this and then maybe you guys can come up and explain it a little bit more. The facility shall comply with requirements set forth by NMRLD for the collection and disposal of solid waste regarding unusable cannabis. This report and the exhibits listed below are hereby submitted as part of the hearing record. Staff requests the hearing officer memorize findings of facts and conclusion of law in a written recommended order. The Santa Fe County Planning Commission may be holding a public hearing on this matter on April 18, 2024, Hearing Officer Abear, I stand for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Valdez. Out of all this material, the only questions I had were regarding the water. Everything
Yeah.
else was very complete.
So,
And,
go ahead.
let me just see if you might
Okay.
know the answer to this. I'm looking at your Exhibit 9, which is the state engineer communication, and the second page of that is, I believe it's the second page of that Exhibit 9. It
Okay.
is the second page. And if you'll look in the middle of that, at Roman numeral 4, it says quantity of water needed for your operation, and then it's typed in 1 acre foot. And I believe that in your report, it indicated a 0.56 acre foot. Do you know why there's that difference?
So on my report, and that's what I received from Mr. Valentine, later on I looked into the report and found that they were going to be leasing water from Longhorn Holdings, if I'm not correct. They're leasing that permit, which is the E-10341A, and it's coming out of their well, which is going to be monitored. So they purchased these water rights, and I think that's the amount of water that they're leasing right now from Longhorn Holding Company.
And is the well on the applicant's property, or
The
is-
well is on the applicant's property. So right now, on the property, the well is there, so they would be monitoring the water usage to their home, and then there would be a different meter that would be monitoring where they'll be using it for the cannabis.
I see, thank you. And will there be, I should look, was part of the condition that the meter readings be reported to the county, or would they be reported to the state engineer or to anyone?
I think they're going to be reporting to the state engineer on this.
Okay, I'll ask the applicant as well. Thank you, I don't have any other questions. And if the applicant would come up on this matter?
Yes, ma'am. Stone McVeigh, 277 Calle Victoriano, Stanley, New Mexico.
Steve Valentine, 8621 Hightower Drive, North Richland Hills, Texas, 76182.
Thank you. Mr. McVeigh, did you want to say anything in addition to what Ms. Valdez presented?
Maybe just to clarify on the water a little bit.
Okay.
We leased the water rights to expedite things. We're actually closing on the sale of that 1 acre foot of water rights end of this month. So we will have ownership of those rights. That has been approved by the OSE and reviewed. The water rights moving into our well has been approved by the OSE. They've come out and inspected everything. We've already installed both meters, and those have been approved by the OSE office.
Okay, that
helps
does clear
clarify.
that up. So,
And we've been reporting our water usage, even though we're not operating. We've been reporting the usage on both of those meters for the last 8 or 9 months now.
do you live on this property?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And so this is your domestic well, but you've
we've-
transferred in additional
Yes,
water rights?
Yes, we've
Is that
gone
correct?
through all the OSE processes to make sure that was done properly, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you anticipate that the amount of water use for your grow is 0.56?
Yeah.
Or less.
The reason for the acre foot was because that's all we could purchase. We tried to get a half an acre foot, but
OSE
they wouldn't
and
do it.
RLD
I see.
require us with our permit to have a half acre foot
I see.
of water reserved for our usage. Have twice that reserved.
Thank you.
Don't expect to use half an acre.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions. If you had any other comments you want to make.
Just that we're going to be a small company. We don't have, there's no increased traffic or like nobody's going to notice that we're even there, you know.
Everything's indoor operation, so
You're not trucking water. So many of the applicants truck water, so you won't be doing that.
No,
No
ma'am.
water,
No.
no trucking of anything.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Does staff have any comments? And is there anyone in this room who wants to make a comment on this? Oh, yes, please.
I do. My name is Connie Sue Hatley. I live at 265 Kali Victoriana. I own the land 269, which is in the map that they're requesting to send letters out to everybody. I also own, well, I really don't own it. I rent it, but my partner owns it, 51A. We have a 40-acre lot on Kali Victoriana. Bruce Tosma and Connie Hatley. Mr. Bruce Tosma couldn't be here today. He got in a horse accident and broke his ankle.
Oh.
But I have an affidavit. I did send it, and I have a receipt that you all received it, but I made copies.
Okay, yes, I'd appreciate it, but I don't think I have it.
I made copies. And then did you guys get mine? I sent you guys one. I did send you one.
Thank you. Actually, I did have it, but thank you. Go go on.
Wonderful. My concern, I'll give you a few minutes to read my letter on response if you like to.
All right, just a moment. Let me do that. Okay, thank you, Ms. Hatley.
You're welcome. I have a lot of concerns. I've been out there for 30 years. And I think I'd like to do is start with our map. Kali Victoriana, I have 3 residents. 51 Sheepdog Lane, it has my name, Bruce and Connie, on it. I lease it from Bruce. The next one has a lot of buildings and everything. That's my home, okay? And the next one is 10 acres. Is 269, and it's in their zone to send me a letter. 269 has a well, no water. It's been pumped, and they can't get it. I would have to spend $20,000 to go deeper to get water. I have cattle on it for head, and I use my water from 265 to water my cattle. I am ag. And on my residence, I have horses and everything. I have a well at 350 feet deep. I pump it at 325. It's been lasting me 30 years. I had a cave in about 6 years ago, and I had to re-drill 10 feet over, and I had to go deeper at 475 feet deep. Now I'm pumping at 350. I do feed and water my animals mainly on 265. Sheepdog Lane has a well. It is 275 feet deep. I pump water out of that very little, and I water the cattle in the back of 265 with that well. So it doesn't put so much stress on my residential. Okay, I've been out there for 30 years. My next door neighbor, that at the present time, I don't have their name, but they're south of me. At the time when I moved in, they didn't have water. And they dig a trench to Mr. Wally and Vern Dalton, which now belongs to these people. I do not know if they're still actually getting water from you guys. Did you aware of that? That the people between your house and my house?
Ms. Hatley,
Yeah.
if you would just address us.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I could
But
ask them
when I
later.
moved in, they didn't have water. They couldn't hit water. So Mr. Dalton, he died. He did a trench to his house, which belongs to them now, and they pump water out of their yard. Now, I don't know if they're still connected or not. because
So,
that house
let me see
sold.
if I think I'm confused. Are you saying that the house that Mr. McVeigh now lives in, that water was supplying to another house?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And they died, and then the land was sold, so I don't know how the waters work in between each of them at that time, because that's the way it's been for almost 30 years when I've been out there. So I'll have to check into that. But my concern is now, I don't know what they want to grow. We're talking about 2.5 miles dirt road. When it rains, it's terrible. You can't get in and out. Our water tables are very low. A lot of people can't even get water because they don't have the money, and if they do, they don't hit the water. My concern is we're residential. I've been out there for 30 years. Mr. King lives right across the street from us. He told me that he was not aware of this hearing until I gave him my letter. He can't even irrigate himself. He has a lot of land around us, and he can't irrigate because there's not enough water to irrigate. And if we're residential and they start a commercial, we're going to open the doors for more commercial people to come in and drill into an irrigation deep water, 700, 800 feet deep to get water to irrigate. That's going to hurt the residentials. On the property surrounding is 2,000 acres. And at this present time, there's only one resident. She had 400 acres, but she moved off. Back in behind my land is one other people that live there. They don't have the money to drill a well, so they don't have no running water. And then at the my land has 3 wells. Each piece of land has 3 wells, but one of them's dry, so I can't pump. The next door neighbor is the one I was talking about, didn't have water. Their property has water. Ivan Barrows, he's down in the ditch, he moved away. They have water. And now a new people took one of the old homesteads and they're fixing it up and they were drilling. So I don't know if they hit water or not. So my concern is we don't have that many people, maybe 25, 30 people out there. We're on a dirt road. It's not maintained. Ivan Barrows and Mr. Ronnie Gallegos, Ronnie's deceased, Ivan moved away. They're the ones that actually fixed our road so we can go up and down on our road. And we don't even get the county very much to even put gravel or anything on it. Recently, another person got 100 acres of the King's land, and they went 7,000 feet deep to get water to go
7,000 feet?
7,000 feet to pump water down Cali Victoriana, down 472 to Edgewood, New Mexico. Edgewood, their schools and their businesses. So now they got 100 acres of tapping into the residential water to support the town. And as a residential owner living out there, for somebody that wants to come in and start a business on a residential home, small or little, is going to hurt the residential water. We had a brand new school built on 344 and 472, which is west 7 miles from my house. They drained the water table from miles and miles around between 344 to maybe 7 mile market in my house. People went dry because of the schools. And I know we wrote this letter, and mostly it's our concern about residents, water. It's really hard as a resident living there now, pumping our water, surviving, to have a business come in and move our zone to residential because they want to grow something to sell. The road is not up to par. It's not paved. And if it rains, you ain't going nowhere. Yeah, and if some truck is coming in to make a load to haul off and they're stuck in the mud, the tow truck won't come. I know this for a fact. So we've got a lot of little issues working on this. A lot of my neighbors that are not connected to the gray line on who's there was not aware of what's going on, but the water tables are infected if they pump. If there's no irrigation plowing allowed on our side of the street. And I'm talking about I have 20 acres, 30 acres, 40 acres. I have 40 acres of land. It's drying and it's dying and it's dirty and it's dusty. But I can't dig another well to wet it. I can't irrigate it. It's not residential is a table of water going per house, so many feet deep that we're all allowed to have.
I understand. You did say you had cows and horses. What is the source of the water for the cows and the horses?
I have 5 horses, and I water them off of the land on 265.
Okay.
And I have automatic water feeders. So when they drink, it fills up like a toilet. No big deal. The cattle are the same way. Okay. If they drink the water, it fills up and it stops. And the chickens and, the ducks, little ducks and stuff like that, because I'm ag, I do that all by hand because it's very little water containers. So basically, the most water I actually use is in my residence of my house, my washing machine and dryer and dishwasher and everything. And like I said before, about 6-7 years ago, I had a cave-in. And that was right after they built the school west of me.
Right.
So I had to spend money to dig a new well. Now, this is all hearsay, but Mr. Frank Dennison died, and he was a real good friend of mine, and he told me that he dug the wells on this property, the 2,000 acres prior to where everybody lives. He says some of the tables are 175 feet deep, some of them are deeper, some of them are dry. And he said that that's the way it is, and you can't go no further deeper. And, you'll be hitting the level of your irrigation of plowing, and it's not acceptable.
I appreciate your concerns. I do. I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, these applicants, they purchased their property and they do have water rights, and he has.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, that's correct.
And he has arranged through the state engineer to lease additional, and I understand that's kind of a fiction in a way because the water's either under there or it's not under there.
But I was also understanding that for him to do what he's doing, you have to change the zoning. He has to be business, and that's residential. He's asking for a business on a residential. How is that going to affect everybody around us? Because that's going to open doors. If he opens his land.
I don't want to argue with you about this.
No, I'm just asking.
Under the Sustainable Land Development Code, the property that he owns is zoned so that it is permitted to have that type of agricultural business.
Agricultural business.
It is considered, he's growing plants, so that's what he's doing. And it's a conditional use with the conditions that the county staff has proposed. So I appreciate your concerns. I think everybody's concerned about water, and maybe you more so because you've got a lot to take care of.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just, I was wondering how when he goes in deeper, if more the veins and stuff would fall into place. But if he goes through and he'd be able to have his business and everything, how's the road going to be maintained? We're going to get more traffic on roads that are not maintained by a lot of city workers. It's just if it snows, and they'll come out and maybe when they get ready. But there's going to be a lot of rain and stuff coming, and I was concerned if he's got trucks coming in for packaging.
I don't think that as part of the application it indicated that there wouldn't be any additional employees there, and we'll ask Mr. McVeigh to come back up and address that particular issue. But thank you for your comments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. McVeigh, could you come up again and talk about how much traffic you anticipate on your on the roads?
My wife and I live there. We go to town about twice a month now. We don't expect there to be any more traffic coming out of, we won't have a car leaving and coming back out of there every day.
Do you anticipate any trucks in regard
No,
to
ma'am.
production or?
No, ma'am. All of our production is very small. Everything we produce to deliver to a dispensary could fit in a briefcase.
And so you will be making those deliveries?
Yes, there will be no business conducted on the farm whatsoever within miles of the farm. Everything will be delivered to a dispensary as per RLDC.
All right.
We have to.
Thank
way
you,
it has
Mr.
to work.
McVeigh.
So
Thank
we'll
you.
have actually less traffic than most of the other houses up and down the road, certainly. Not going now.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I don't think so. Not from me. Yes, if you want to briefly. Mhm.
Okay, the other people that dug the well to get the water to the town, they asked them to gravel the road from the main road to their turnoff. And, it's like, if there's possibility that if he's gonna open a business and everything, if he can gravel like in front of his driveway and everything, because he lives at a steep rail where the water runs down, if he can maintain in front of his driveway some gravel and very well in and out, because people go in front of his houses to their houses and back and everything, and in working condition and delivering, like he said he's going to be delivering. Because in my property where I live, I put gravel in front of my land on the road to help. The tractors come kind of clear it off, but that's something they do. But I try to maintain in front of my property gravel, so it helps the water table when the roads are bad. Can we
Okay,
ask
Ms.
her
Atlee.
to do that too?
Well, I think that as a neighbor, he may take that into consideration. But,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that wants to make any comment on this? Is anybody from the public? Did you receive any other written comment on this application?
Hearing Officer Aber, there is no other further people that want to discuss the items that are brought here forward today.
And no one's online? Nothing?
Nobody online.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for your comments, and I will prepare a recommended order on this within 15 business days. Thank you.